We just had an election in Japan. I didn't actually talk about the polls because the last poll screwed me over so badly. So the last poll, again, it doesn't matter. There was a guy who was the front runner, and then the guy who was in second place by like half actually won. So I just realized, I'm not going to talk about polls because weirdly they might make me look stupid. So they did voting. Kishida won. He didn't win by as much as they thought he would win by. It's the short version of that. This has brought some things to light. So there was Ota City. The voting was done by ballot, which is nice. It's something that people understand. That means it had to be done with a pencil, but as a COVID precaution. First of all, they bought special pencils that were supposed to be antibacterial or antibacteria-resistant pencils. And then they wanted the people to fill out their ballot. So you come into whatever the center is, you fill out your ballot, you take your ballot, you put your ballot in, you take the pencil home. This was important. This was part of the COVID protection so that no one would share pencils. The problem is they ordered these pencils and they arrived, as you expect, not sharpened. And that's something that apparently no one had thought about, is that the pencils don't come sharpened. And I realized this. I don't buy pencils anymore. I have a mechanical pencil, but I've actually switched almost exclusively to very sexy pen. The EDC Everyday Carry TI, so titanium click pen that can take over like 200 or 300 different refills. I don't know how many it is, but it's the sexiest pen ever. And the reason you got this pen is to be able to choose the ink, because people talk about pens, but it's the ink that matters. And I use the Zebra gel ink. Right now I'm using a 0.7 ballpoint. I think it's a bit thick, but I get down to a 0.5. I was pretty happy with that. I've actually tried 0.3, 030507. There's another one in there. Maybe it's a 01. Anyways, I've tried them all. I do like a thick line. And that's Peter's Pen Talk, which is going to be the new podcast that spawns out of this one. Peter talks about pens, but basically just one being the best for a really long time, and doesn't give you any proper recommendations for other pens because he thinks you should just buy the pen that he has. I have two of these. I have a work pen and a home pen, and they're exactly the same, except one is titanium and the other is brass. That is not the story I'm talking about. It's difficult when you get into when someone sort of gets into they love, just you just brush that topic and they can't pull away from it. So they ordered these bacteria resistant pencils. They were intending on people to fill out their ballots and then take the pencils home. The problem is they weren't sharpened. So they actually asked the staff of the city hall and stuff. The employees were asked to sharpen the pencils on their breaks. Now, a lot of people said, why don't they shift to online voting? It's 2021. Online voting is a pretty reasonable thing to expect. It's not a big surprise if we'd be able to do it properly. And I understand that. I feel the same way. Basically, everything should be online now. If it's, you want massive amounts of people and you want to gather information from them, like voting, it should be done online. I agree with that. They're failing to take into account that Ota City and almost every city in Japan is just chock full of old people who don't know how to use computers. My parents-in-law do not have a computer. They do not have Wi-Fi. They do not have an internet connection in their house. Now, they're not incapable. They use smartphones and stuff. But at the end of the day, they just aren't interested in computers. They aren't interested in this stuff. So asking them to vote online would not work. So you're actually saying if we move to voting online, you have to vote online. You're actually saying like X amount of people cannot vote, which is unconstitutional. So you can't do that. I do think they should start phasing in online voting because young people coming up are going to be able to be probably more comfortable than with a pencil. But a very interesting problem that no one had foreseen, myself included, if you order 10,000 or 100,000 pencils for your election, you have to have someone sharpen those pencils. I shouldn't continue the story after I click the story, but I guess you could ask the people to sharpen their own pencil when they get there. Just provide them with pencil sharpeners. And that's just one per person. It has nothing to do with Like one guy doesn't have to sharpen 1,000. Everyone just sharpens one. That's socialism. Don't do that. Okay. Because of the election, I looked into some different election laws and rules and stuff. And there's a thing in Japan, election cars. And these are cars that go around blaring at insane volumes. And every foreign person who comes, and almost all Japanese people I know, every foreign person who comes to Japan is like, how is this legal? In the city, in the country where I came from, this noise would be illegal. This would be breaking noise laws. And absolutely, it's horrible. So Article 141, Section 3 of the Public Election Law. Vehicles must be stopped to make speeches. Only calling out can be done while moving. So when the car is stationary, the politician, if you look at Japanese news, you'll sometimes see politicians standing on top of a van. But quite often the politician is actually in the car saying stuff. And the thing is, if it's not moving, they can be like, hey, my name's Peter. I want to be the Prime Minister of Japan. You should vote for me. I'm awesome, dude. You're awesome. Let's be awesome together. So that would be like my political speech. If the car is moving, what they do is just go, my name's Peter. My name's Peter. My name's Peter. My name's Peter. And I think it's recorded because it's so annoying. So that's problematic. Everyone's like, well, that just makes me memorize the name of the person I don't want to vote for. But there is the psychological theory of the more familiar something is, the more likely you are to actually have an affinity for it. So you got to be careful that your psychology doesn't trump your attitude at the moment, because it is actually true. You might go in and there's only one name you recognize, and I'll vote for the name I recognize. There's no actual volume limit. It's up to the individual. So basically, they can just crank it as loud as they want, and there's no one can stop them. And these are universally despised for that very reason. Like, it goes by my house. Let's say I'm doing this, Ninja News Japan, or I'm sleeping, and one goes by my house. I can't do my podcast, and I cannot sleep. I can't do the things I want to do at home because this thing is making so much noise. Now, there is a rule. It was Article 140 or something, but they need to strive, this is quotes, they need to strive to maintain tranquility when close to schools, hospitals, and clinics. So what I realized what I have to do is actually move, but get my house next to a clinic. So it doesn't need to be like a big one or so. Actually, there's a clinic up the road. Oh, I should check on that. 2 blocks away from my house, there's a clinic. But if I can hear them, the clinic isn't being tranquil. Oh, I just realized maybe I can get them to stop blaring their thing around my house. These are universally despised. Japanese people hate them too. But the problem is politicians won't, ban them, because traditionally this is how politicians have gotten their message out. And they feel like, a lot of politicians actually say they're ineffective and stuff, but they're like, but this is what people do. In Japan, one of the most powerful factors you come up against is, this is how it was done in the past, therefore this is how we should do it, even if it's a really bad way. So as a foreigner coming to Japan, I've told the same story a million times, and it was when I got married and my wife said, let's do this thing, and I said, that's really stupid. She said, well, it's a tradition, and I said, that's really old and stupid, and that made her upset. But she kind of understood what I was saying. Like, the traditions don't matter to me. I matter whether it's important or valuable or useful, because I'm not Japanese. But you could see in her mind, it was, this is something that has been done in the past, therefore we should do it, regardless of whether it's a good idea or not. What I was saying, let's look at it. Let's take the filter of tradition off it and decide whether or not it's a valuable experience. And for me, it wasn't. That's true of almost everything in Japan, which is a good and a bad point, because it means traditions are still important and they still happen here. They're still seen as valuable, and I think there is some value to them, but sometimes they I can't think of the right word, overwhelm, overtake, overrule common sense. It was done this way in the past, therefore we should keep doing it. And that's dumb. We're still in, this is a primarily political episode. Abe no masks. So these were the masks that Abe said, like, we want to provide 1 mask for every household. That was the initial thing. Now, the complaint in my house, there's 4 people. So do we share one mask? Do we all wear the mask at the same time? Like there was a bunch of jokes. There was a nice thing. There's Sazai-san is a Japanese cartoon about a family. It's pretty lame. But it had all the family lined up and the kid in the front was wearing the mask and then it was going around everyone's ears as they stood in a line. That was funny because this was pointless. And worse, the mask was generally too small for a normal person. So they had 140 million masks made and ordered. And then everyone hated them. And they were like, well, we still have to use them. 82 million remain unused, which is more than half. So basically half the masks the government made to share out to people didn't actually get shared out. They're just sitting in a warehouse. They switched to a request basis. So basically they sent out one to each house and everyone was like, this is dog shit. I bought 2 Under Armour masks because they are sturdy. They are triple filtered. They have everything they do. The spandex on them is now just starting to wear off. So I actually have, for the last 2 years, worn 2 masks. I wash one and alternate and just wear the other one. These were worth 3,000 yen each. That's a lot of money for a mask, but I've only worn 2. I haven't produced any garbage beyond the 2 masks I have. And I actually plan to wear them into the future for allergy season, even if there is no coronavirus. That is it. Under Armour, if you want to reach out. Oh, I'm even wearing the shirt today. Under Armour, if you want to reach out and give me $2 for that promo, I will accept it. I could actually say that was my first sellout. But I actually really think they were good masks. So, so it was a request basis. So they're like, okay, we've sent out one to every house and everyone's getting on our ass. So let's just, quietly push these aside and maybe hope everyone forgets about them. But no one requested them, which meant there were 82 million sitting in a warehouse. The masks overall cost 11.5 billion yen. And 600 million yen for storage. So this is what the opposition parties are like. This is bad government spending, and I agree. It is bad government spending. If you're going to make masks, you should make them. If you want to get them out to people, you should get them out to people. They should not be sitting in storage. That is just stupid. Again, this is just government waste in action. And I suppose it's going to happen, but why? It was weird. The thing that the opposition party said that I actually thought was really funny is that like Abe doesn't wear them. So the guy who basically commissioned these masks, he doesn't wear them himself. How can he be like, this was a good idea? Which is fair enough, because it was a bad idea. Taro Aso was prime minister for a very short amount of time. He's basically not prime minister because he didn't want to keep his mouth shut, which is literally the most entertaining point of having him in politics is he keeps saying dumb stuff. He usually says something sexist or offensive or racist. This one isn't as bad, but it shows just like he doesn't give up. And I've opined several times about old Japanese men who've just gotten to this point in life where they think everything they say is brilliant, and because they've spent their whole life with yes men around them, and then they don't seem to ever get they should shut up. So Taro Aso was in Hokkaido, and he's managed to sort of it was a backhanded compliment. So he offended them and complimented them at the same time. He said, Hokkaido rice has become more delicious because of global warming. So he said, Hokkaido rice used to be unsaleable, but now is better and even exported because of the higher temperatures. And then he said, for some reason, this is a reality. I was trying to think of the good points of his statement. Because let's give him the... So if I was in Hokkaido, well, first of all, if I was a rice farmer from X amount of years ago, I'd be like, dude, my rice was fine. I don't know if they exported or not. I actually assume they did to a degree. But just, he's basically saying like, Hokkaido rice used to be shit. Now it's okay. We can even sell it. Which is pretty... Yeah, again, this is his version of a compliment. The only positive I could pull out of that is he at least believes that climate change is real. And I bet if you turned around and asked him now, is climate change real? He would actually probably deny it. But, yeah, like an idiot. So coronavirus. they had the lowest numbers in Tokyo since May 2020, which is awesome. So I think it was in single digits for a couple of days now. So I know one day was 9, and that's great. That means coronavirus maybe, I don't want to get too optimistic, but maybe is under control. Maybe things are going well. If people just keep sort of on this track. And then this is what makes me worried. The 10,000 person cap in stadiums has been lifted. Now they can go up to 50% capacity. So if you have a 40,000 person stadium, you can have 20,000 people. For smaller venues, you can have 50% or 5,000 people, whichever is greater, which I would have said the opposite. I said whichever is smaller. But again, I'm maybe super conservative when it comes to trying to battle the coronavirus and just not kill people, but whatever. Obviously my opinion's irrelevant. So let's say you have an 8,000 person venue. You could have 5,000 people in it because half is only 4. And then they said, unless it's an event where people shout, then you have to be at half capacity. So I guess I don't know. I just would like them to just be, just be more cautious. We've had so many waves because people just wouldn't, put it together and just be like, we got to wait till it's gone. Once it's gone, we can all go out and have a good time. I want to go out to izakayas. I kind of really want to drink again. Not like at home. I want to go to an izakaya and eat tebisaki, which is chicken wings, and drink for a bit. And not even a lot. I don't want to go like crazy. I would like to go out with my coworkers and stuff and just go have a drink. We've actually hired people into our office. We have yet to have a welcome party. I think it's been 2 years now. It's insane. All right, the story I've heard people talk about the most this week, until yesterday. Yesterday was a there's a guy dressed up like the Joker. He started trying to stab people, and he had a drink bottle full of gasoline or kerosene or something, and he set a train car on fire. And there's videos all over the internet of people running away. I wasn't talking about it because people actually got hurt, and it was pretty awful stuff. It did get me thinking about people who like the Joker. And so this guy said that he wanted to die. What he wanted to do was kill some people and get the death penalty and die. And this was because he didn't have any friends. And I kind of equate I love the Joker with not having any friends. Because it's the same thing with Rick and Morty. So people idolize Rick. I don't think they realize that Rick is the bad guy in most of these stories. He doesn't do the right thing until he's forced into a position where he has no choice. And the only reason he does good stuff is because he has to maintain some aspect of his life, which is awful. The Joker's the same. People who idolize the Joker, first of all, I think what bugs me is they claim to live like him or think like him, but then they don't. That's the other part of Rick. This is a very weird tangent I've gotten into. But if you idolize the Joker, I guarantee you're not as smart as the Joker. You're not living the Prince of Crime lifestyle. So what are you talking about? And then idolizing someone who's an asshole basically tells me enough about you as a person. And that's why you don't have any friends, which is why you suddenly realized you want to die, which is pretty awful. But the story coming up to this week, so the one I actually wrote down, was about Princess Mako, who is not a princess anymore. They got married. And it was actually weird to me how many Japanese people were talking about this like it's a big deal. She decided to not continue being a princess, and she's going to marry a commoner. But actually, when you look at it, there are no other options. The princesses from this point on only can marry commoners. I don't think there are any royals left to marry. If you decide to not be a princess, you get $2 million. But then she was like, I'm actually turning that money down. The reason they've been not married for the last 3 years is because the guy was having money troubles with his mom. I didn't get too deep into the story, but that's enough of it for you to understand what's going on. And then just the other day, it turns out he failed the New York bar exam. And they're making a big deal about it. This is super exciting tabloid news. It's the kind of news that I do not care about. I'm like, this lady wants to marry the guy and he didn't pass the bar exam. Okay. None of my business. I bet they'll be fine. They clearly both come from really rich families. 9,000, this was the only bit that was interesting, which is why I wrote it down. 9,227 people took the New York bar exam and only 5,791 passed. So a lot of people failed the New York bar exam. That is not actually such a weird thing, and he can take it again some other year. Or just do a completely different job, because the guy, again, he's got money in the bank. I don't think there are any problems here that anyone has to worry about. Sorry for my Rick and Morty Joker tangent. That was weird. Hokkaido police have arrested a man for assaulting his wife, which is no laughing matter. But I say that only because clearly, in this case, it is. This was a couple visiting Hokkaido from Osaka, and what happened was, I want so many more details as to why all this happened, motivations and stuff. The wife put food scraps in the husband's pockets. I don't know what that means. It's like, this was like food you're going to eat later, or was she just trying to bug him? So they got back to their room. He got angry when he found food scraps in his pockets, as you would, I believe. And he threw a pillow at her and a futon. Now, a futon in Japan is not like a IKEA bed, like the one I have in the background of my video. It is just a mattress. It's just like a giant pillow you throw on the floor and sleep on. That's a futon in Japan. Sometimes they're really thin, so they're just like thick blankets. So you could actually sleep on a futon and put another futon on top of you. But this was not a violent assault. I guess. I was like, you can hurt someone, I guess, with a pillow. But throwing a pillow at someone generally is not an assault, or not considered an assault. The futon's heavy, so maybe, but then it would be really hard to throw, so you're not going to get much velocity. I struggled with this conceptually. I inherently believe that he was not trying to hurt her. That's why he chose the weapons he chose, the futon and the pillow. But then someone called the police. It didn't actually say, the news story didn't actually say if it was the wife or not. Maybe it was the people like in the hotel room next door said there was like something going on. And because they said, like, what did you do? I threw a pillow at my wife. That was enough. That was assault. So I actually now kind of want to go back and see if I can find more details, which I'm not going to be able to do. This is not a big enough story. But yeah, why would you put food scraps in someone's pocket? And this was maybe a practical joke. This sounds maybe, if you want to take this in a positive light, a practical joking couple. And she's like, haha, I put some breadcrumbs or some bread from the dinner table in your pocket. And then he's like, ew, that's gross. And then he threw a pillow at her. If they were noisy enough, I actually bet the neighbors called the police. And then they were like, what's going on? And he said, I threw my futon at my wife. They're like, well, off to jail with you, young man. It's a question then of who has to press charges, or do the police just press charges? I bet they just let him go. I'm hoping it was not a serious assault, because beating someone to death with a futon would take forever. Not the thing I should have said at the end of that. There's a Japanese hover bike that has just gone on sale. It's basically the body of a motorcycle. And it has like a drone. It has like 4 big rotors, and that will blow it up in the air and you can fly around. This is the startup company is backed by a Japanese soccer player. And each one, it's on sale now. You could actually buy this. If you want a flying hover bike, you can actually buy it today. It costs 77.7 million yen. I don't have that much money, so I will not be buying one. You get 40 minutes of flying time, and you can go up to 100 kilometers an hour in the air. But be aware that you are not allowed to fly over roads, public roads. I also assume if you're the kind of person who buys this, you're going to crash it pretty quick. So it's sensible that you're not allowed to fly it over roads. You are only allowed to fly it at racetracks. So basically you can go to a racetrack, so like a circuit that has a track day. You can get up over the track and fly around. I assume you actually can't fly when people are driving though. And then I'm just waiting now. I want to see how many people buy this. It went on sale yesterday or the day before, so a couple days ago. I want to see how many people buy them in the first week and then see if I can find any statistics on how many crashes, because this is not the same. A motorcycle, I know how to drive a motorcycle. I have had motorcycles in my youth. I'm wondering where the pitch and yaw is going to be on the motorcycle. So like left and right, you could still lean. Do you lean back to go higher, or does that the acceleration? Do you lean forward to go faster? This is a lot of like technical questions I actually have.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. You can also watch on YouTube/Velocipodcast or streaming on twitch.tv/chunkmcbeefchest. You can find Ninja News Japan on Facebook. Send questions or comments to speakpipe.com/Velocipodcast. Link in the description. Check out all the podcasts in the Velocipodcast family. See McBee, Ninja News Japan, and Daily Affirmations Weekly. How long would it take to take someone down with a futon? It would actually be better to smother them rather than hit them with it. That is why I believe the man wasn't trying to really hurt the woman. Regardless, please be careful having sexy pillow fights in Hokkaido.